the encounters for each PvE mission can be radically different based
Right.
on not only loot, but basically the boss you're fighting.
And it's so based on replayability that our focus on the fiction is to create a scenario that explains, that takes the replayability into account. I mean, you wouldn't want to have to talk to the same NPC who gives you the same story and you do the same thing over and over again because it just feels weird and transparent. Whereas kind of shaping up, okay, so you're running these missions against this group, and it's not necessarily the same facility every time. It just made more sense for supporting our gameplay with fiction.
It's also kind of consistent with what players will later see in AVA. For those that choose to subscribe, you can buy Global Agenda just one time and do the PvE content and match-made PvP. And the concept of just infiltrating a facility and getting out with goods that then you can use for your own purpose, that's something that players do against the Commonwealth in PvE, and then later they'll do against other player groups in AVA.
Well, let's get into some of the gameplay stuff. One thing I've noticed for a shooter, you guys don't actually have a headshot or even a separate hitbox for the head or other body parts. You're pretty much just one target. If a player melees from behind, there's a bonus damage. So why one and not the other?
You want me to hit that?
Sure.
The main thing about Global Agenda, it's very fast-paced and there's kind of a lot going on in character development, but it's not really Twitch-based. It's more strategic. So it's more about, you're trying to take over a control point or defend an area or assault an area, and it's much easier to do that if you're not obsessing over those little kind of Twitch mechanics. It's much more about where am I positioned in relationship to the other groups of players and where are my fellow players. And it's all kind of about positioning and in-the-minute action strategy, which ultimately I think is a lot more fun. And it's also easier to keep the devices balanced if you can't headshot somebody. So
yeah,
all those factors kind of work together.
Right. It's ultimately just a lot of play testing, which is what our development process is. Things like just the time to kill and survivability are things that we worked hard to balance because it's a hybrid between a shooter, but also there's heavy RPG elements. As a medic, I want to be able to keep Chuck alive, and if he's getting headshot and I don't have a chance to do that, I'm not going to feel like a very good medic. At the same time, we do have a recon class that can go sniper who can take Chuck down if he's spec'd the right way and is using his range buff in a couple shots. And so that's a very tricky balance to make it feel good, not just for the person behind the sniper rifle, but the one in front of the sniper rifle across the map. And not having headshots, but still having a hit box for players so that you do have to aim your reticule was the compromise, and basically works really well, we found, for both sides.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because all the configuration and speccing you can really do to change your character around. It seems like something like a headshot would really play against that because, the tactic of headshotting somebody is just a powerful thing to do. And our snipers just really kind of dole out a lot of damage, but that damage still has to respect all the game balancing and other people's devices and all the other factors that kind of go into it. So,
you mentioned a couple of classes so far. There's actually 4 going to be in the game, but that wasn't always the case, right? So if you don't mind, what were some of the other classes you were thinking of?
I think the archetypes and the play styles have been pretty consistent. Early on, we played with a number of ways to divide the abilities, and obviously the devices switched from one to another. But fundamentally, we wanted a big, heavy guy that was assault that would either be doling out damage over a large area or soaking up damage. We wanted a support class as medic, but we wanted him to be able to go toxins and deal out damage. We wanted a stealth class that was recon. And had deception, and we wanted the guy with the most tech toys, being robotics and having AI droids, and also have an engineer sort of ability. So I'm trying to think if there's any other concepts that were in the early phase.
Yeah, no, it wasn't so much that they were different, it was how much we broke up the diversity into individual classes. For a while we had the sort of, I forget what he was called, the Tormentor, which was like the poison medic versus the hardcore healing medic. But it just proved to be more interesting to keep all those things where the medic could mix and match those devices, and we didn't really end up going with that division. So.
Right. Ultimately, we preserve those play styles, but through the idea of talent trees. So we've got the 3 skill trees per class that let you go more of a torment or pain medic versus healing, because that also supported more hybrids that we found were interesting. Again, it's part of the thing I personally enjoy the most about Global Agenda is now having been on year 3 of playing the game every single day and still racing to get one of the first 20 seats in the playtest room. So it is being able to mix up my build and try new equipment and try new skills and come up with interesting hybrids. And so 4 classes that are distinct but also very broad, I think, is a good formula for that.
I don't have to worry about anyone telling me that I'm playing my class wrong.
Well, I can't guarantee that.
Depends if they want you to be healing them when you're poisoning someone, but
A lot of players love the pricing model that came up. Just giving people options with a radical idea, the MMO, game set. But being an MMO game, it's assumed that there'll be constant patches and expansions. How will the single purchase players be handled in those situations? Are they still going to get the content, or in the case of expansions, they just buy that one expansion again?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have seen the community respond pretty well to it, which is not that surprising since it kind of evolved from the community itself. We listened to feedback that said people, there was a large group of people that would buy the game even without the AVA portion for $50 and just play it like a shooter or shooter RPG hybrid, and so we wanted to make that available to folks. But we thought hard about not wanting to divide the 2 communities of subscribers and non-subscribers as far as the basic gameplay. So any updates that are bug fix related or even new device related that apply to core PvE or PvP. So if I get new healing technology for my medic, or Chuck gets a better stealth device for his recon, that'll be available whether you're a subscriber or a non-subscriber. It's really content update associated with AVA, which is a whole different set of territories on the hex map that non-subscribers choose not to have access to through just buying the game once. That's the set of content that we'll continue to do updates for that'll be subscriber only. And there'll be PvP combat there. There'll also be PvE content that's for high-level characters that contributes to AVA. And that's the stuff that our current plans are to include with your subscription, so not via a separately purchased expansion pack, but that's part of what the subscribers are paying for. And again, that's proven to have good response so far.